Welcome to another episode of the Veronica Kirin. I'm your host, Anthony Pavelich. For the second time, today I have with me Veronica Kirin. She's a serial entrepreneur. She works with audacious entrepreneurs who want to get disruptive and change the world and industries for the better. Entrepreneurs who know they have an incredible skill and something profound to offer. Whether you identify as an entrepreneur, small business owner, freelancer, or sole proprietor, if you have a business or idea and it's tied to a vision for the future, you are building an empire. She provides guidance, structure, and expertise to disrupt the status quo and scale the business into the diverse legacy of your vision. So let's get started. Thank you for joining today, Veronica. I'm so happy to have you here talking about queerpreneurship is what we're going to discuss today. But before we do that, I just want you to give a brief overview about yourself, and then we're going to give a brief overview about what you're doing for COVID-19, and then we'll get into the queerpreneurship.
Sure.
Queer.
I know. I make up words, and they're always tongue twisters. So yeah, I'm Veronica Kirin. I am a serial entrepreneur. I've been starting businesses since 2010. I currently help other entrepreneurs pivot and scale up, especially in the LGBTQ space, which is why we're chatting here today about queerpreneurship. And I'm also a TED Talker and author. My first book is Stories of Elders. I drove 12,000 miles across America alone to meet with 100 strangers in the greatest generation to talk about how tech changed everything over 40 years. And now, as you alluded to, we're experiencing a very similar paradigm shift, but in the course of 4 months instead.
Yeah. And you're also working on a second book at the same time for technology as well.
Yes. So,
but you're not traveling 12,000,
I'm not traveling 12,000 miles. The amazing thing is, that was in 2015, and our elders really expect one to come in person if they're going to tell you about their life story. So I did that to show the respect for the fact that I was asking them about their lives. Now, Stories of Tech was meant to be the sequel where I was interviewing Gen Z about their lives as the first all-tech generation. But that's been put on hold because here we are with COVID-19 changing everything. And so I'm working instead on Stories of COVID.
Which is great. I was happy to be on as interviewed yesterday, and a very thoughtful interview and very thought-provoking as well. So, and I look forward to the book when it comes out, actually, and all the podcasts that are coming.
I just published one just before we got on.
Yay! Right. So let's get into the queerpreneurship. And I know you were here before when I interviewed you at the end of last year. Your episode posted earlier this year, and we were able to talk about afterwards. I found out that you were in Toronto at some point, speaking to is it with the Gay and Lesbian
Chamber of Commerce? Yeah, the Canadian LGBT Chamber of Commerce was their annual summit.
So tell me what your involvement is with queerpreneurship.
Yeah. So I myself am a queerpreneur, if we're going to use that word. That I definitely, I don't know if anyone else has been using it, but I definitely decided to kind of coin it and use it myself late last year. My business was the first business in Grand Rapids, Michigan to certify with the National LGBT Chamber of Commerce, which is the American counterpart to the Canadian LGBT Chamber of Commerce. And really, I work with entrepreneurs of all walks. But I especially love working with entrepreneurs in our community because there's an additional layer that happens as an LGBTQ identified entrepreneur, where not only are you, running a business and deciding your brand and deciding who you are as an entrepreneur, but you also have to decide, do I want to be out as an entrepreneur?
And that's a difficult thing for a lot of people. I will say, for me, myself, being a gay man, it is one of the concerns that I've always had is that if somebody I'm working with finds out, how is that going to affect the professional relationship? Are they going to want to work with me? And sometimes I think it's a lot of internal struggles more than it is external. especially being in Canada, it's a little bit easier, I think, for me than it was when I was in the States. They're a little bit further along. But no, it's one of those things to where you have to, you process it. I shared an article that came out a while back about how often as a gay, lesbian, trans person, whatever, you come out over and over and over.
Yes.
It's not a one-time and done thing. It's like how many times do you have to come out in your life because of people assuming.
Yeah. And I just recently spoke to the senior group at the Long Beach LGBTQ Center, which I've recently moved to Long Beach, or since our last conversation, actually. So I've been living in Long Beach for 6 months and getting really involved with the LGBTQ Center, which is fabulous. They're the 4th largest in the world, so it's very fun and accepting. But the seniors, we had that conversation because seniors are having to decide, do they come out when they move into retirement communities, or do they go back in the closet because of discrimination? Because discrimination is happening from younger nurses and practitioners where they won't give them their medication, or they preach at them and they have to get into lawsuits. And do you want that at the end of your life, having to litigate against somebody who's supposed to be taking care of you? So it is something that, unfortunately, has to be thought about throughout our lives, just as you said.
That's funny because that is actually something that I didn't think about either, is how when you retire and you go into a retirement home, about coming out again. But it goes along with the same thing about always having to come out over and over and over.
Yeah.
And when my husband started his new job, it took him a while. I mean, he'd been at his previous company for 20-some years, and he was out. But starting his new job, new company, he was like, do I or don't I? And it took him a little while to be comfortable with it.
Yeah, because you just don't know how people are going to react, even if everything indicates towards the positive, it's still, unfortunately, there's still trepidation.
There is.
Yeah.
So what kind of work do you do with queer entrepreneurs?
So I specialize in scaling and working around imposter syndrome, which are actually more related than most people realize. So whenever we go through an identity shift, imposter syndrome is going to emerge, and imposter syndrome is normal. I just want everybody to forgive themselves and put themselves at rest right now. If you experience imposter syndrome, which you will many times throughout your life, it's normal and it's okay because it's part of our fight or flight mechanism. So it's just going to happen. It's normal. You're doing good.
Yeah, and that's not just for queer people either. But I think honestly, and this is just my opinion, I think I struggle from it more because of being gay.
Yeah. Because
of the fear of people thinking that you don't. People think you don't. You're not the same level as others in. Yeah. So because I'm well educated. I have a good experience, a lot of experience in the background, but I still run into imposter syndrome. Yeah,
I think for kind of any minority, there's just those layers because there's all of this rhetoric that we receive about who we are and who we are supposed to be and if it's okay and if it's not. And then for the LGBTQ community as well, there's a lot of assumptions that happen and a lot of boxes, lots and lots of boxes we're put into. And so I definitely think that there's a significant layer of imposter syndrome. And, the LGBTQ community has grown up fighting for validity just in general. So then in career or in entrepreneurship, we're so used to fighting all the time that that when we start to receive success or we try to pivot and re-identify ourselves within a new space, that just pops right back up again.
Yeah.
And so I work a lot with entrepreneurs in general and LGBTQ entrepreneurs around imposter syndrome. And then within space in scaling businesses. So entrepreneurs who are ready to grow or who are growing and aren't sure how to manage it. Sometimes entrepreneurs who have hired and didn't feel good about the hiring process because it's the first time they've ever done that. And so, of course, as you're doing a lot of firsts, imposter syndrome is going to come back up. And so we do a lot of the internal work towards what is that? Why is it coming up? Everyone's unique, so all of your triggers are your own. And then not just how do we manage your triggers, but then also how do we learn the tools of scaling so that you don't have it come up that often.
Because it's going to come up for many different reasons. It's not just, I mean, you can have imposter syndrome for several levels of your business. Like you said, hiring, your first bid, maybe you're putting out a bid for an RFP, or you're getting your first client. I did my first online workshop, mastermind, the 4-day workshop last week. And of course, it was like, who am I to do this? But I had, a number of people sign up. Not everybody showed up for the whole thing, but the feedback I got was very good to me. And it made me feel like, okay, I can do this. This is good. But it's in the project management realm, trying to help entrepreneurs understand project management and be able to run more effectively for their businesses. If you're an entrepreneur that's trying to enhance your skills, increase your revenue, then join my free webinar. You can sign up at thebikerpm/free webinar June 2020, June 2nd, 3rd, or 4th. Then give yourself an hour to learn those top 5 skills. Looking forward to seeing you there. So It does. It sneaks up every time, especially if you're scaling, because that's a scale for me to where I'm starting to help educate.
Right. And so that's such a perfect example because you were doing something new to you. And so there were some new tools you had to deal with and, little pieces that you had to juggle that you didn't ever do before. So, the habit track in our brains isn't built when we do something new. So our brains are super turned on and making sure that everything's okay. And then it says nothing about your skill or knowledge, whether or not you know how to put on a webinar and do the lead gen for it or anything like that. You are still a knowledgeable, educated, skilled human being. It's the fact that you're learning new tools and doing it in a new way that suddenly, unfortunately, because of the way imposter syndrome work, crashes down all the confidence walls, and all of a sudden we're back at square one.
Exactly. And that's what happened. So what else? Yeah. I mean, how you were here talking to the Chamber of Commerce. Do you do that very often? How do you work with local Chamber of Commerces?
No, so I actually was the keynote for the summit last year, and I was speaking about self-care through scaling. So very much along these same lines of how to scale up your business and why, so that you have more time for work-life balance, which I know we're all kind of struggling with right now because we're working from home. So I'll close the laptop of the, lid of the computer and I'm done. But it's all still there.
Exactly.
I'm still in the same room. Again, our community struggles a lot with self-care because we're so used to the fight. And so, when is it okay to take off the battle armor and just relax and be okay? So I do speak around the world on imposter syndrome and entrepreneurship and my books. So that is why I was in Toronto, and it was fantastic. Any listeners who haven't been to the CGLCC Summit definitely should go. It's postponed right now.
Of course, everything else. Just like everything else.
Yeah, but I highly recommend it. I mean, it made me want to move to Canada.
Well, I moved here in 2011 when I got married. I got married, and then I moved here a couple months later. It's funny because he was originally interviewing within his company in D.C. area and everything because I lived in Washington, D.C. And it ended up not working out for him to transfer there. And then it was a sudden okay, what? And so my move up here was more of it wasn't as planned as we were planning on his. But it's the best move I've ever made. moving from DC to Toronto, both international, very migrant cities, multicultural, not much of a culture change, but a lot of change towards attitudes on LGBT people.
Yeah, and I could feel that. The summit last year was mid-May, and so the entire city of Toronto was gearing up for Pride. Almost every storefront was a rainbow. It was, honestly, as an American, it was shocking in the best way.
Yes. I agree, because when I come and visit, I could see, it shocked me when I was coming to visit the difference, even between DC, as multicultural as it is.
Yeah.
But to hear, for as far as the gay life. So as for queerpreneurs,
yes,
I'm going to get that word right.
You got it.
What other kind of things do you help them with? I mean, in scaling, what kind of issues do you see that, besides imposter syndrome, what other kind of issues do you see with people like us trying to go out on their own?
Yeah. So, our community is one of chosen families, and we have learned to lean on our families significantly, because a lot of times we don't have the blood relatives inherently there. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs who are starting out, and, they might be going through imposter syndrome, or they're just trying to figure it all out for the first time, or perhaps a third time, but in a new industry. And you want to talk to your partner about it, because they're your partner, they're your family. That's who we've chosen in our lives, because they know us and they care about us and they see us. And so we want that support. We want that nurturing. Unfortunately, sometimes we lean on our partners too much. And, our partner may not be an entrepreneur. And if they aren't in your business. Now, I understand there's a caveat here where some partnerships do become business partnerships too. And those people are incredible. But that's the exception, not the rule.
Yes.
And so I work really hard to work with my clients to make sure that they have an entrepreneurial community and an entrepreneurial family that they can go to, so that, yes, confide in your partner, update them, share with them, so that they have buy-in to what you're doing. If you're in the middle of a major launch and you just don't have time to do the dishes for the next month, that's okay. But you need your partner to be bought into that. Yes, I'll help you and I'll support you. But asking your partner, about financial decisions in the business, or, what lawyer, or is this product right, or things like that, where they don't necessarily have the expertise. They want to help because they love you, but you'll overtax them, and you'll end up burning your partner out, which is not a good thing. So working with my clients to find that balance and nurture it, definitely plan date nights. I don't care how long you've been in your relationship, have date nights, and have date nights for your kids too, if you have children, because that time, you never know. They especially now working from home, your kids and your family are not going to know the difference between you being on the computer for work and being on the computer for play. They just won't know. So plan that time, and then work to build an entrepreneurial community and an entrepreneurial family that you can lean on and go to for some more of the expert help.
I have seen that actually with me and my husband, because he's not somebody who's had an entrepreneurial spirit. He's much more risk adverse than I am. So I can adjust to things a little bit easier when it comes to being an entrepreneur. So sometimes it does freak him out that I do these things, but there are times that I do start making decisions within the business, things I want to do. And I don't necessarily consult him, but I do say, hey, by the way, I'm taking my business in this next direction, because he gets in the mindset. And this happened actually just a day or two ago, that there's a company I'm looking at putting in some work with, and I'm having to do a case study for part of the process. And it just stressed him out. He's like, oh my God, this just stresses me out. I was like, I don't need your stress or your opinion. I just need you to look at the case study and tell me what you honestly think of the direction, because I can't handle your opinion because it'll stress me out. So
yeah. Yeah,
But
that's so wise of you too, to know, this is my partner's strengths, and they can support me in this way. So they feel,
it took a while.
we love our partners. And so, of course, we want the sun and the moon and the stars for our partners. Let's be honest.
Yes.
And
we do what we do sometimes to try to make it easier for them.
Yeah. So it's up to us to say, I'm not going to burden you with this. I'll play to your strengths so that you feel like you've been involved and so that you feel like you know what's going on, because you need to know what's going on.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to overburden you. Because they'll say yes. They'll say yes all day long.
Yeah, they will. Just like we will. Just like we would.
Of course.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Biker PM. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you think. And remember, if you're an entrepreneur that wants to be with like-minded individuals and improving their project management skills, join the Biker PM Facebook group. Until next time.